is a very special food review meets Med with Andrew. The background of this video is that I do some just fun food reviews on my Facebook profile, and I do these educational videos with my YouTube channel. And there was a suggestion from friend Neville, who I've worked with at the Queen Elizabeth in the past, to do a food review on tonics for gin and tonic for the Christmas season. So I did that. I did a bit of background. I went and had a look at what was available in terms of range of tonics, because I do enjoy a gin and tonic, and I have to be honest, I mainly just use Schweppes sugar-free at home and haven't given much thought. And so I went through these different brands and I came across a full range that were available at different liquor stores, and I chose to compare 5 different brands, and they were Schweppes, Schweppes Bright, Strangelove No. 8, Fever Tree Premium Indian, and also Cappy. And the reason I chose them is because they're all pretty standard tonics, as opposed to other varieties such as Fever Tree Mediterranean or the Fentimans range, which all are kind of flavoured tonics, and I wanted just to choose some that were straight tonics to compare. So having chosen all of them, I needed to have a control, and I chose the International Gold Medal Award-winning Never Never Triple Juniper Gin, and I have to admit that's probably a weakness in the trial, is that we only tried with one gin, and there's a whole range of different gins with or without botanicals of different strengths, and so I went with this as a kind of a middle of the road option, and that was the real control, so that we could compare just the tonics by themselves and the tonics with the same gin. And that's one of the when we're using this as a bit of an educational tool, one of the important things whenever you do a trial of something like a medication or intervention is to reduce the number of variables. And in this trial that we did, which was single blind, the main variable was the tonics themselves, and we just had the tonics and then the tonics with gin, same gin as the control. So it's a single blind, which means that the people that were participating were not aware of what they were partaking of. Some of them were aware of some of the brands available, but none of them knew of the full range, and they did not know what they were sampling at each time. They were just given particular letters, sample A to E. And that is opposed to double blind, where double blind means the participants of the trial, as well as those who are administering or overseeing the administration of the intervention, are unaware of what they are, and only the company or the overall sponsor of the trial, whoever's running it, actually has the ability to unblind and find out if someone's getting the real drug or the placebo, which is the most common use of a blind. So having chosen my samples that I was going to compare and my control, I then had to recruit some people. And over the Christmas season, we're lucky to have some of the seniors of the Van Lint clan who are also long-term gin and tonic fans, and managed to recruit across 3 generations of the Van Lint family for the tonic tasting, with special guests from the 4th generation as well. So let's meet them now, the 5 participants of this trial.
Hello, my name's Joan Van Lind.
My name's Andrew, and I've enjoyed gin and tonic probably properly for the last 4 years, particularly in the last 2 years.
I really don't know how long I've been enjoying tonic for, but probably a long time.
I'm more of a Scotch fan myself, but gin, but over many years, 50 years.
My name is Stuart, and I've decided that in the last year I'm going to be a gin and tonic man. So I've gone all in, all gin.
And what's your name?
All the time.
Nothing.
How long have you enjoyed tonic for? Never, I think. I think this is the first time, isn't it?
No, I have tasted all.
You've tasted it before, okay.
And I'm Simon, and I'd say I've really only been a fan for, I think, the late 1990s. For me, the eye-opening moment was on a hot English summer's day, having a gin and tonic in our neighbour's back garden in Kent, and suddenly I thought, actually this is rather refreshing.
So what we did was they sat and they each had the tonics one by one with some water in between to cleanse the palate, and they were asked to give some comments and ratings. And then in the second part we repeated the same process, except it was gin and tonic, and the quantities were quite carefully controlled so that they were having the right ratio of gin to tonic, which we used 1 to 4 in this particular trial. And then we got their thoughts on that as well.
Do we get to drink it then?
I think you do.
A bit lemony on the nose.
I like the
Yeah, it's got a nice floral nose,
a
isn't it?
bouquet,
And it starts off a little bit sweet,
sweet.
but then
yes.
the acidity kind of builds, doesn't it? The sort of bitterness of the tonic.
It does.
So that's actually that's quite nice.
Quite a nice sensation on the tongue.
Dada.
There's bitterness. There's not really much sweetness. It's a bit bland, I would say.
It is, but sometimes it's what you want because you don't necessarily want to have a competing flavour with the gin. You just want something that's going to,
Emma
dilute
said-
it a bit and give it a bit of a different twist.
They're very good for taking my tablets with.
And there's a recommendation.
Emma's comment is
I think it's very pleasant. 7 or 8.
I agree.
I give this one a 6. It's a bit bland for me.
I'm going to give it a 6.5. I'm going to say it's better than the last one, but not as good as the first 3.
All right.
My bet is the first one, A, will be
Smell
the
it, doing
cheapest.
that one.
Because I think it's the most obvious. The others bespeak a bit more subtlety. The first one's probably plain brand or no, that would be awful. The first one will be
Smells
Schweppes.
nice.
There we are, because I'm sure he's got some Schweppes, because that's the standard.
Quite different. It's not quite as strong, and it's a little bit perfumed, floral.
I'd say this has got a less pronounced nose.
Definitely. Perhaps a little bit herby.
Much sweeter on the tongue.
Just much sweeter overall.
Yeah.
It's quite different. I quite like that one.
Also quite a marked fizz.
I like that one. Again, that bitterness kind of just gradually introduces itself the longer it kind of lingers.
Doesn't introduce itself quite as much as the other.
More spicy. I thought this one was a little bit more bitter than the first one.
Not as sweet as the previous one.
Not initially, no.
So, do you think it's bitter or spicy? Bitter like. That's how I describe it.
Bitter like makes your mouth go. Like
Okay.
chili.
I think an 8 for that one.
No, I think very similar to the first one, 7, 8.
We'll give it 8.
Yeah, I'd say more bitterness in that one and more sweetness. I like that. I'm interested to see how that mixes with the gin.
Yes.
I think I'm going to give that an 8.5.
Okay, that's quite different on the nose.
Definitely.
Nowhere near as floral, nowhere near as pronounced.
The bouquet is certainly milder than A, and possibly milder than B comes to that.
I quite like that. It's got a little bit of sweetness to it, and that the bitterness is present but not overpowering. It kind of kicks in a little bit as more of an aftertaste, but not powerfully. What do you think about that drink?
Good.
Yeah? Does it taste like anything in particular?
It tastes like apple mixed up with pear.
I like this one. I think this has got an added extra in this
Do you?
one.
Something botanical going
No.
on. No? What,
But I like this
think
one.
He snuck a bit of gin in already. Wouldn't put it past him.
I like this one.
The bitterness of the quinines are definitely in evidence there. So
It smells like lemonade.
Yeah.
Tastes like tonic water. There's not a lot of sweetness in the flavour. I think a lot of the sweetness comes from the aroma, which is why you get that really bitter aftertaste because you're not really smelling it anymore.
Actually, now that you say the lemonade thing, if I didn't know this was tonic and someone just gave me this, I'd be like,
And
is
you
this
sniffed it, you'd be like,
is this mostly flat lemonade?
The bubbles on the others felt smaller somehow. These feel a little coarser. I'm not saying it's a problem at all, but they're different.
I like that. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Is it good or
I'm gonna give it a nice hedged 7 out of 10.
Yep.
Pending finding out that everything else in the selection is better than this or worse than this.
Well, I think it's good. Do you think it's good, Lottie? Yep. Thumbs up for you. Okay.
Definitely in the middle in sweetness. No, it's not as sweet as the first one. I don't think it's quite as, you mentioned bitter. I didn't particularly find the second one bitter.
No.
This is somewhere in between. I like that one.
another 8.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7 or an 8.
I'm going to give that a 9.
Here, Emmy, you want to try it?
best? Dad, this is best. Dad, this is my really favourite
More,
one.
more, she says.
Dad, this is my favourite one.
I think.
Is it because it's the sweetest one?
Yeah.
What do you think, Emma? She's like initially like, I don't like it. Then she's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one in that it seems to be less sweet and almost simultaneously less bitter than really any of the other ones.
Yeah, I'd just say overall it's just
It
it's
doesn't
more like
seem to have any flavour.
it's
It
more
could
like
be-
flat lemonade. This
Yeah,
one.
it's almost
Not as
that,
sweet, not as bitter.
that kind of soda watery, slight soda water tang.
Yeah.
Dada.
Dada, you mean?
That one could just be soda water, which makes me think it could be sugar free.
It's a lemony sort of bouquet here.
Sweeter than the previous one. It's quite nice.
I'd say it's a bit sweeter, a bit less bitter than the others. I'd probably give that 9. I like that.
Yep, I agree. It is marginally sweet.
So I think a 7 or an 8 for that one.
I'm with her.
So I'm going to give that one a 6.
What did you bump yourself?
Maybe
what is
even
that?
a 5.
The bubbles are more visible in this one.
Definitely.
Whether that's good or bad.
Not much of a bouquet to it at all, actually. I just, if anything, slightly lemony.
I like that one too. Lemony.
Do you want to try this one first, Lottie?
Smells much like number 1. It's a little more sparkling. It's
Yeah, I know,
responded,
it's like that.
It's responded with more bubbles when I've
One, it's a bit more sweeter.
given it a shake. This one
It is like number 1.
could be Kirk's lemonade.
Yeah, it is. It has that lemonade kind of like number 1, a bit more
That
lemonade.
just specifically the Kirk's lemonade.
Yeah, yeah, almost
or
like-
slash Schweppes. Like they both have a similar kind of tang to
Like
them.
almost
Not
the
Sprite.
lime cordial. What's that one? Bickford's.
Bickford's.
There's a bit of Bickford's
Yeah.
lime cordial-esque sourness to it.
Yeah.
There is something definitely lemony. The bitterness is not. It doesn't give it. That first one in particular started very sweet, but then finished with a very strong bitterness. This is altogether a much more subtle.
Yes, I like this one too.
A bit too mild, I think. Not tonic-y enough.
Probably goes 7.5.
Give it 7.
I'd say it's
9.
similar to D in my book. Yeah, no, I'll give it a 7 or an 8 again.
The really interesting results from the initial tonic part, and they didn't know any of these scores before, they just did the whole lot in one go. But after the tonic section, we saw everyone liked the fever tree. It scored really well across all participants. And it was interesting that would change quite drastically when we came to the gin and tonic section. So here's the section with the trial participants enjoying their gin and tonic, and you can see how the comments and the scores change quite significantly when that happens.
Ice on a slice of lemon
Very nice.
or a piece of cucumber. Works well though.
It does, and certainly having the gin, it's not as sparkling, is it?
Well, no, it shouldn't be because it's diluted. Yeah, to a degree.
No, quite nice.
Maybe it's the juniper that I have hints of lemon coming from, that it could be.
Definitely quite a floral bouquet there.
I think this one just smells of sparkling gin. I can't really get any tonic.
Yeah, you're right, it does really. It's almost like the tonic. There's a bit of aftertaste, but
Okay, I think if I recall,
it's a lot of gin. It's
if I
like
recall,
gin with soda
I think
water.
D is the one that I thought might have been sugar free. But now that I've had it with the gin, I feel even stronger that it might be sugar free.
Yeah.
It's quite unpleasant.
Whoa, unpleasant.
I'm gonna give it a 5.
Oh wow. I thought that was. I'm probably going to go a 6.5.
I think I'll start with a 7 for that one, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm going to say 6 or 7. The more I think about it, the more I'm thinking the first one is just a little bit too obvious. Just lacks subtlety for mine. But
That's a little bit bitter for me. I'd give that 6.
Let the audience know, I've finished everyone thus far.
This one you are declining
This one-
further
that's
samples.
right.
Interesting bouquet. I don't know how to describe it.
So already I reckon I'm smelling the juniper in the gin more compared to the last one.
I like it more. Definitely a sweeter element.
Better than the first one.
I'm finding this bitter. Not enjoying this.
I think this is less sweet than the last one. And I think it is showcasing the gin a little more.
Yeah, yeah.
But personally, I prefer it a little sweeter.
I'm going to
This would
go...
be to a lot of people's taste. Not quite to mine. I'm still going to give it a 7 because I recognise that my preference is not necessarily.
Oh, this is your preference though.
Oh well, then I'm going to give this a 6.5.
Alright. I'm going up to 7.5 on this one. It's, yeah, it's quite nice.
7.
No, that's a 7 for me. The first one I would have given a 6.
4.
Whoa!
It's okay. It's nothing outstanding. Doesn't really grab me.
Yeah, I think it hasn't quite done enough of a job to work with the gin.
Yeah.
Can't say I'm really enjoying that. I'm not really a gin drinker, but that doesn't suit me.
Well, that's the pick of the bunch so far for mine.
I
mean,
feel
bearing-
like I'm still getting beaten over the head by juniper without much relief.
Yeah.
You know, I rather like this one as a standalone tonic, but I feel as though it's really lifted the gin. You're not so convinced, Mother,
Well, no, I think it's overpowered the gin.
do you? Okay.
Yes.
I thought the first one did, but we're allowed to differ. We'll find out.
I'm probably going to give it a 6. It didn't really float my boat. It was okay.
It's totally fine. Again, we'll start with a 7 and then we'll go higher or lower.
Okay. All right.
5.
6.
I'm going to go for an 8.5.
Oh! I like this one.
That's also very good.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
It doesn't smell like anything but gin.
I think that's a very good combination, that one. Happy with that?
Yeah, I like that.
It's still kind of nice, but like definitely better than the last one.
It might be a small step, but like,
I'd probably go 7 for this one.
I mean,
Again, it's like a bit kind of like averagey.
I mean, I feel bad operating in 0.5s. So if the last one was a 5, I don't think this is a 5.5, but I don't think it's a 5, so I'm going to go with like a 5.2. I'm going to abandon the 20-point scale for the 100-point scale and give this just a marginal step up from the last one. But let the audience take note once more.
Decline
Do
further
not
sampling.
consider it to be worthy of further consumption.
I'll give this 8.5 as well.
I'll say 9 for that one.
I'll give that 7.
Do you think you associate a sour smell with lemon?
Wouldn't be surprised.
I haven't really got strong lemon characteristics, but there is like a sourness.
That's
Also,
nice.
I haven't necessarily smelled quinine, like just raw quinine. Maybe quinine is quite. Maybe that has a bit of a citrusy slight kick to it. I don't even really know what quinine is, besides being some vaguely anti-malarial thing.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you find that sweet?
I think it is a little sweeter, which surprises me because I didn't think of it as especially sweet
No.
the first time. I mean, you always expect a little sweetness. You always have to put some sugar in it to balance the bitterness of the bark.
Quite nice.
I'm going to give that an 8. I've had 8.5, so I think it's just a slight notch below.
7.5.
And it's probably the best with gin so far. I'll make it an 8.
This one's probably my favourite. It just, I don't know, something about the way that it blends. Like this is quite a strongly juniper gin. It's there, like the juniper flavour's there, but it's balanced really well with the tonic.
It definitely takes the edge off it. I think it's a bit sweeter as well.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one an 8. I would enjoy having this at home.
I think I'll join you in 8 territory. I think this is the best of the 3 so far.
So here are the overall scores, and you can see that the main winners here were really the Capri, closely followed by the Schweppes Bright. And it's interesting with the Schweppes Bright because one trial participant ranked it quite low, that as an outlier really skewed that sample, and potentially the Schweppes Bright, what would have otherwise come out on top in the gin plus tonic section of this trial. And the Fever Tree, which was a clear fan favourite in the first section, did not score so well. In fact, a lot of the scores changed drastically. Here is another comparison of the scores that shows you with the tonic alone and then the gin plus the tonic, and you can see how some of the tonics performed very similarly with or without gin, whilst for many of the participants, adding the gin either added more score or drastically took away from the score. And that was something I did not expect at all, and a really interesting find from this study. I asked all the participants to kind of conclude with a few closing thoughts or reflections from the experience, so I'll share those with you now.
I was surprised in the gins the tonic that we started off with was quite sparkly and bubbly. That seemed to dispel when you put the gin in, didn't it? To some extent, which I was quite surprised about. But I think the main thing that I found was the ones that we found quite sweet with the tonic by itself, that when you put the gin in, it really dampened that down
comment.
quite a lot.
Yeah, but gin has some bitterness to it, doesn't it?
It does,
So
yes, it's juniper,
the
isn't
juniper
it?
certainly does that,
Yeah.
and sometimes the other botanicals can be a bit
So I was
that way,
quite
so
surprised, actually.
Maybe you need that.
I was surprised at how flat lemonade they tasted. I had never appreciated that before. And I was interested as well how easily some of them are overpowered by the gin, and I didn't like that. Gin and tonic is not gin.
Sparkling gin. You know,
Sparkling
if
gin.
you just want a sparkling gin, you would put like
Gin and
mineral
soda.
water or
Gin and
soda
soda.
water.
That is a legit drink, and some people enjoy that. But
Not me.
No, me
Not
neither.
me.
I want a gin and tonic, and I want to
Right.
taste the tonic, and I want to taste the gin.
That's it.
And like bearing in mind that this gin is definitely a higher juniper kind of flavour.
Yes.
Bearing that in mind, I think that's a fair test though, to go, do you hold up to be able to stand up to some of that?
The more gin and tonics you've had to drink, the less discriminating you become. I think that's almost a given, isn't it? I mean, apart from whatever you might think about the effects of alcohol, gin and tonic has a reasonably powerful taste, and I'm pretty sure that there's a bit of palate fatigue starts to kick in. I certainly found that if you go to a wine tasting, after you've had several wines, it's not always easy to keep, kind of keep sharp, as it were, really notice the differences in things.
Well, they all. I don't really have a lot of gin and tonic, but I do have one occasionally, and usually have Schweppes. And I didn't think. I was sure that any of those had Schweppes, but maybe the gin's different.
It might be worth getting like two different styles of gin. So this is one that I think if I were to drink at home, I would definitely be drinking with my sweet tonic water.
Yeah, yep, that's fair.
But potentially, if we had two gins, you might get a reflection of this, gin A is a bit sweeter. It works with the triple juniper. Gin B is a little more on the bitter side. It works with the slow and mulberry gin. But obviously, that's
Well, it's not a very scientific assessment, is it? After all, it's not very subjective. Yes.
These are all the subjective opinions of Stuart Van Lint, not reflections of either my wife, my family, or my workplace.
Why you bothered that? Yes, neither do my opinions reflect or represent the opinions of SA Health or the University of Adelaide.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, just gonna disclaim that one.
We've got to have the disclaimers in there, lest anyone go to war. Grab torches, grab pitchforks.
No, we don't want
My
that.
favourite tonic water got poo-pooed
That's
in
right.
your review / single blind study.
Yeah,
and let
great.
me tell you, the University of Adelaide is going to pay for this.
I had a real great time making this trial and sharing it with you, and I hope that you've found something interesting. I hope that you enjoy a good gin and tonic. It certainly challenged me in the way that I think about my gin and tonic experience, particularly with the tonic, and I've been enjoying the leftover samples of the tonic in the last few evenings with my own gin at home. I'm certainly going to be a bit more thoughtful in the way that I use tonic when I'm combining it with gin and tonic. Also, as obviously this is a bit of a sham trial, so there's a lot of stuff that is real weaknesses. The fact that we only have 5 people, the scoring system is hugely subjective, and we gave them no advice other than please score these things out of 10 in terms of how much you like it. And the comments were just there as well. These people have no training or other prior experience with trialling gins or other types of food or drink in any kind of professional capacity. So the number there, the fact that it was all just before a meal, you could do it after a meal, the fact that it was just with a single controlled tonic gin that could have been different and given a different experience. And a lot of people commented that you might choose a different, you know, bitterness or flavouring or sweetness of a certain tonic to complement a certain type of gin in different circumstances. So a lot of weaknesses, but I hope that you've enjoyed this and that you'll be a bit more thoughtful and insightful in the way that you enjoy your gin and tonic next time you have one.
Water.
Yeah.
The Woolworths home brand tonic water is, for drinking with gin, is an equally serviceable sweet tonic water, and it's like 99 cents a bottle or something for a litre. I know, the price is outrageous.
Dada. Dada. Mama.
That's cute.